Hi, everyone. Welcome to Unapologetically You, where we discuss all things health and wellness. We use science backed tools that support you and your family, and hopefully give you thought provoking conversations to get you motivated to look after yourself and the ones you love. Today's hot topic comes in two parts. So, one is a summary of the season so far. So, tell us what your best bits were in the comments box below. And secondly, we have story time. And I am here, if you're seeing this on YouTube, introducing my very first book, Happiness Within. But before we begin, I want to thank you for listening in, for finding us, and more importantly, for showing up for yourself. And if you would like to support us and what we're doing, head over to our Patreon page. The link is in the description box below, where you can support us for a price of a small cup of coffee. We'd appreciate if you share this podcast if you enjoyed it. But without further ado, welcome my beautiful co-host, Kelly. Welcome, Kelly. How are you?
Thanks, Charles. I'm well. I'm well. And you I'm so proud of you with your first book. But you are proud of yourself too, which makes me very happy.
Yeah, I'm holding my book. It's tangible. It's
Yeah.
a real thing.
Yeah.
And I was telling Kelly in the green room that I've been
Hmm.
feeling really emotional lately. And it's not because of the book. It's just, I don't know, I'm just processing things. You're nearing your period, hormones are going a little bit cray. So basically, I'm just like, this is so surreal. Like, it feels surreal to hold this tangibly in my hand and be like, oh my gosh, it's here. I started this in 2020. But the thing is, the stories go back like some of them in
Many years.
childhood. So I'm
Yes.
excited. I'm really excited because I don't think it would have got to this stage without my editor and without the formatting editor. So I've had
Oh, thank them like
good.
you just won an Oscar. Go, girl.
They've been amazing. They have been amazing. And I do really appreciate everybody who's contributed and
Yeah.
just been a part of my life. But how are you, Cal? How was Thailand?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was good. Um, it's such a busy, hectic place. And Vietnam as well, such a busy, hectic place. We went there. We had some work to do. We had some vacationing to do, but I don't think we actually rested.
Yeah.
So, if anyone has some ideas for resting in Thailand and Vietnam, let me know them because I need to go to those places next time. I have a friend there at the moment. She's sending back photographs and like, look at this. Oh, it's so relaxing. Oh, we're doing this all afternoon. We're just going to lie on this lounge and drink cocktails. And I did not see that side of Thailand. So I want to know where she is and I want links to those places. Look, it was good. It was a fantastic experience. We ate our way around both countries. We dived, we snorkeled, we saw some amazing things. Uh, but they say do something every day that scares you. And that for me was crossing the road in Vietnam. Holy tolls. Have you been there?
I have not. I've not. But I think
Yeah.
I'm a bit like you. I I think my perception of busyness has changed. Like we were talking about this
Yes.
earlier before we hit record, didn't we? It was like I'm okay to slow down now. It's taken me a while. It's taken me at least 3 years to understand how to slow down. In the meantime, well, we started a podcast. I went on YouTube. I started another channel. I've created a book.
Yes.
This is my
Yes.
slowing down era.
Yeah.
But
That's
yeah,
true.
I'm with you.
Absolutely.
But sometimes you need
Yeah.
different things on holiday, right? So sometimes I love going out, experiencing things, going to, different theaters or concerts or something like that. So that can
Mm,
be busy, right? Because when you're going to a
mm,
place, it's like, right, getting there, going there, coming out, sitting in traffic, blah, blah, blah. So our holidays are usually busy anyway, but
yeah,
I relish the chill. But I think that you've had your busy holiday, you now need a chill. You need a chill,
I do.
right?
And getting anywhere from Australia is an epic adventure, like anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, so just that part is tight. Doesn't matter how you travel. In fact, one
Yes.
time we traveled from Vietnam, from the north of Vietnam to the south by a train. we went on the Reformation train. We thought we had booked the Violetta train.
Mm.
I imagine what we saw in the ads was the Violetta train because it definitely was not the Reformation train.
Oh.
And that's a whole podcast on its own. Don't go on to
Oh,
it
I want to hear
expecting.
more about this. I love
Oh,
Kelly's stories, guys. I don't know. Tell us in the comments, right? We want to hear about this, right? Next podcast.
it's a story, trust me.
Yeah.
Anyway, tell me more about your book.
Oh, are we not going to do our biggest win? Should we do our biggest win? What made
Oh,
you
okay.
smile and
Yes.
intention?
Biggest win this week. Oh gosh, don't know if I've got one. I was meant to have something done by today and I haven't, so that's not my biggest win. I
But are you partially there though?
yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
partially there.
Okay. Well, why can't we
All
count
right. So
that as
my
a big
biggest win is that I'm
win?
partially through doing something that I should have
Yeah.
done weeks
Yes. We've got to
ago.
celebrate the partial wins. Come on.
Bless you. All right. I'm going to celebrate the partial win. I'm going to have to because I haven't got a big one this week.
Well,
I
I'm going to
really
add
don't.
on to that. I'm going to say this is a
Okay.
partial win because Kelly heard
Yes.
my frustration with KDP
Yes.
publishing, and there's just been minor errors. And I'm just like, oh, you know what? I had the intention to release it on the 8th of August. The ebook is
Mm.
already out there, so if you want to purchase the ebook, you can. But the paperback and the hard copy are just taking there's a small delay. So my biggest win is yes, I've got the proof copy, but actually I'm disappointed that I wasn't able to release it. But I'm just like, look, grand scheme of things, it'll happen when it's supposed to happen.
It will, of course it will. And like I said before, you and every other author, including J.K. Rowling, have had these little setbacks. But imagine if you had published it with the little errors or the little,
No.
you would not, yeah, it wouldn't have sat well with you. I know that.
Yeah.
So, yes, get those little things done. And they were
Right?
little things.
They are. They're
Yeah.
so tiny. But what made you smile? Was a thing that made you smile this week?
I've been back cooking, so we've been away being cooked for and brilliant. I love being served.
Who doesn't? I would love that too every day. I want this for breakfast, please. That's the dream.
Absolutely, and
That's
they
the dream.
do well for 6 days on the yacht we had it. Um, 2 people, 6 staff, unbelievable. But yeah, but I also love cooking. So I've been back and trawling through some recipe books and doing cooking for my own family, but also for some of the like Bill, who's 101, if you remember Bill, and Victor,
Yeah,
who's 97, and doing some cooking for them. And yesterday I took over Swedish meatballs on mashed potato with. Do you have IKEA in the UK?
do. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have the restaurants in the IKEA?
Yeah.
Okay, so in the IKEA restaurants, there are these Swedish meatballs in gravy on mashed potato, and
Yeah.
I served it with broccolini. So I made that according to a recipe, and it's an Australian lady who runs like a soup kitchen or a kitchen for the homeless, but she
Hmm.
makes these gourmet meals for them. Absolutely, and she's put out a cookbook. Her name is Nagi, and the cookbook's called Dinner. But her website is Recipe Tin Eats. Recipe Tin Eats. Okay, so there's hundreds of recipes, and I found IKEA meatballs or Swedish meatballs with gravy on mashed potato with broccolini, and I made it for the boys. We call them the boys in Pottsville, that Bill and Vic. And oh, again, you wouldn't have seen this movie called The Castle, would you? It's an Australian movie. It's iconic, but gosh, it's probably aged a lot. All right, it's hilarious to an Australian. So in the book, the mum serves up rissoles. You know what rissoles are,
No.
do you? No, they're Australian meatballs, but big meatballs. It's like a burger patty, but
Okay.
it's a rissole, and it
Okay.
doesn't go on a burger. We call them
Gotcha.
rissoles. Can't believe you don't call them rissoles. Okay,
I learned something new today.
rissole. Yeah, it's such a good thing to learn. It'd be so helpful. Um, so anyway, she serves up rissoles, and he says, "Oh, love, these are amazing. What are they?" And she said, "Oh, they're just rissoles." But that's what the boys said to me last night. So I served up the meatballs, and they went, "Oh God, these are so delicious. Oh, the best food I've ever eaten. What are they called?" I'm like, "Meatballs." So that made me laugh.
You know what? It's just funny
What?
because when you're older, I feel like you've got more experience, right? You're a lot more wiser. But the
Yeah.
thing is, it's a big compliment to say, like the amount of food that you consume in your
I
lifetime. Let's
Yeah.
think about this. How much do you consume every day, every week, every month, every year? For then somebody of that caliber, I'm going to say, not age,
Not age. Yeah.
but they actually found it so incredible. Like that is a win
Yes, it is.
because
It is.
your tolerance goes higher, right? Because you're just a bit like, well, wait a second, I'm not going to have crap cake or I'm not going to have this because I'd rather have something that really does titilize my taste buds because at
Oh, they
that
do.
age they
They
don't
need
really
that.
care about fat and health and all that, right?
No, that's so true. That's so true. But they also don't dole out the compliments very easily either. You really have to work for them. So when you get one, it's
Grab
like,
it.
oh my God, yay.
It's on the
So
podcast now.
Victor, as an example, Victor will say, like I put a lot of effort into what I cook and I go and buy the nicest ingredients. And I go, so how was it? And he'll finish eating and he'll chew and chew and chew and wipe his lips with his serviette and he'll go, that was quite acceptable. I'm like, quite acceptable. So I work hard for my compliments, let me tell you. So yes, when they were excited about the Swedish meatballs, I was doubly excited.
I'm not surprised. My mum does that. Whenever I'm like,
Yeah.
Mum, how is it? She's like, it's okay.
Yeah.
That's a level of excitement. So one time, I can't remember what food it was. I wish I remembered. But one time, I was like, Mum, how was it? She was like, mmm. I was like, oh, what?
Yeah. I know. Don't you love just pleasing your parents? Like
It's
you're
true with
looking for
anybody,
that.
right?
Yeah.
Because the thing is,
Anyway,
with food, it comes from love. And I know
it
cooking
does.
means something to you. So it's cooking with love and you're offering
Mm.
something that it's immeasurable, I would say.
Mm. Yeah, I would say so too.
Yeah,
Yeah. Which is why you're looking for something a bit more than that was okay.
right? Well, no, that
Right?
was a huge
Mm.
compliment for me. I just did a double take. I was like, what? It's not just okay. Okay, so what is your intention for this coming week, Kelly?
Oh, I have got to get this website up. The business is up and running. It's just the website is a cherry on top, So when I get contacted from people wanting, we call it active care.
Yes.
So it's aged care, DVA, and NDIS care. And they have access to nurses and assistant in nursing, which is a carer.
Mhm.
But we call our service active care. So they get what they need in terms of can they walk properly? Do we give them a massage? Do they have muscle stimulants? Do you have a vibration plate? Do we actually get them on a Cadillac and do some pushing and pulling, things like that? Um, and it's popular, incredibly popular.
Mm.
But I'm doing a lot of talking about the same thing over and over. So what I'd like to do is be able to have a website where people can press all the links that they want to press, and everything I say is there in front of them. They can look at
Yeah.
it over and over. And a lot of the times we're dealing with older people. They'll listen to you, they'll fall in love with it and want to do it. And they'll go, can I get my daughter to call you?
Mm.
Yeah.
So you have to explain
Yes, you
everything
can.
again, right?
I do. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just me trying to hurry something up so that I can have a little bit of a mental
Mhm.
break from um, talking on the phone all of the time. I don't like having the phone, as in close to me all of the time. I don't like having to answer it when it rings.
Yeah,
So
makes sense.
anyway, that's my
But that's
intention
a
for the
great
week.
intention because again, we were talking about, your website is your shop window these days. So actually you do want it
Mm,
to be right. It is similar
mm,
to a book. You don't want it to go out with those minor errors. You want it to be
no,
as best as possible. And then when you change or you tweak things in the business, you're able to change that on the website. Like I've changed my website probably two or three times since I
have you?
had it
Yeah,
in
I know you
2020.
did one
Yeah.
time. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and they were just like, actually, I'm gonna pull the membership platform for now while I build that audience for Tulsi.coach, by
Hmm.
the way, anybody who wants to follow me on YouTube. Um,
It's a great platform, a really good platform.
I feel like
Yeah.
I always challenge myself going, how many times can I mention it in a podcast? Have I mentioned it? Actually, for those followers, have I mentioned it in every single podcast? Because we're here to do a hot topic of the day roundup. Part one is we've had 15 episodes. Can you believe it, Cal? 15 episodes. It's ranged from burnout in the workplace, productivity, menopause, divine feminine energies, love, myths on health and wellness, Ayurveda, breath work, as well as men's health and workplace wellness. And then let's not forget the one that we talked about, breast milk, right? So I think
Hmm.
we've had a really big range of wellness topics this season.
We sure have. And
Have
now
you
that you've put them all in like a line, they are diverse.
really? They really are. And I thought that as I was kind of surmising it, and I thought, what is your most memorable episode? Can you remember?
Look, I think breast milk does stand out. Um, because there was a little bit of a conversation about us going, well, what will we talk about this time? And we do just don't want to jump on the bandwagon and ride everyone else's coattails about the hot topic or the hot buzzwords of the week. That's not what we thought we wanted to do. And so when you came up with the topic of breast milk, you said, what do you think? I'm like,
Mm,
interesting,
mm,
interesting.
mm.
So, and it's not just how it is as a breastfeeding mother, but how it affects the child in the first few years, like the early years of breastfeeding, and the hormones and the immunity. Yeah, that one stands out
Yeah,
even now. What about
I
you?
always love I always love the conversation that we had about the brain stopping, and then right at the end I was like, what would you recommend, as our what do we normally call it? Our health motivational tip of the day,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Before we completely end. And you were like, don't have kids. And I just burst out laughing. And it was just the most funniest thing. If you do listen to this on the podcast, just turn your volume down just on that one. It's just, I think the last few episodes we've laughed a lot, haven't we? We've just been silly. And actually, one listener was telling me, bless him, amazing, actually
Mhm.
said Kelly was talking about color palettes and we were talking about clothing because obviously the conversation came up in that day, and I was talking about color palettes and clothing, and he was like, yeah, that came up in the podcast. I was like, oh, I forgot about that. And then it's like, yeah, and then she talked about bikinis and having the right bikini for a color, and we just joked that it was like first world problems.
Oh yeah,
And it was
okay.
just a funny, like, side note. It was just a funny quip. And it wasn't the hot topic, obviously, but it was just having
No,
those little conversations that we can just laugh at ourselves. And
we do laugh at that.
it lightens the mood, right? We're not taking ourselves too seriously. And I think that it's just life's too short to take yourself seriously. You could laugh
Yeah,
at yourselves constantly, right?
love laughing at myself.
Me too.
I
I
love
think I'm
laughing at you too, but
hilarious.
yeah, yeah. I do crack myself up sometimes, but sometimes I'm the only one who thinks I'm funny as well. I have to
That's okay. We're making
footnote that.
ourselves laugh. It's fine. And we're making
Mm,
each other laugh, which is good.
yeah, we do.
And the funny thing is I think for me, okay, so my analytical mind head
Hmm.
on the law of manifestation with our beautiful guest Vita and our Ayurveda podcast with the beautiful Jen. They were our most listened to. So I found it
Ah,
really interesting that actually we talked more off topic from the traditional health and wellness topics that you've got. And there
yeah,
were more alternate medicines and energies
yeah.
that we're talking about. So I found that really interesting that actually
I
our
do
audience
too. Yeah.
wanted
I'm
to
not
listen to.
surprised, but
Why?
it is
Why?
interesting. I'm not surprised.
But why?
Did you think I was? Why am I not surprised? Because I think the people who do listen to what we have to say are like little reflections of ourselves. And those topics are what interest us, and that is the kind of healing that we would gravitate to ourselves.
That's interesting. Okay, well, audience members, let us know.
Mhm.
Please interact with us because obviously it helps the engagement on YouTube and Spotify and things like that. So let us know what topics did you enjoy and what do you want more of in season
What do you want more of?
5?
Yeah.
Season 5. Can you believe it? Season 5. This is
No, I
insane.
can't believe it.
This is insane.
No.
Okay, so part 2. So I know we did a very brief summary, but this isn't the end of season 4. This is going to be a little bit of a twister. So for the next like
Hmm.
3 or 4 episodes, just to round out the season 4, I'm going to go through our story time. And
Hmm.
depending upon Kelly's business, because obviously it's all brand new and upcoming, a lot of time and energy is going into that. You might just listen to me, just tell you about story time, and we won't go through our traditional hot topics, question and answers, and health motivational tip of the day. So Kelly, as
Hmm.
you are
Hmm.
my primary audience today, shall I start from the beginning, or do you want me to pick a specific chapter?
I have read from the beginning and I loved it. And I think everyone deserves to hear that part. So please start from the beginning for me.
Okay. All right. So no pressure. I haven't read this out loud.
No.
So please do forgive me if I
Oh,
falter
you've got a
with the words.
beautiful voice. Go for
Okay.
it.
All right. So the introduction of Happiness Within, a journey of reflection and self-discovery by me, Tulsi. Everyone has their own story. Like many before me, the inspiration behind mine was when I realized how much life is a journey. This journey is something many people go through: self discovery, transformation, self realization, and becoming. I've captured the details of some of my life's trials and tribulations within these chapters. I've craved logging information ever since the age of 11. I was surrounded with my brother. We were given our very first computer, and I knew it was expensive to buy a computer back in the day because my dad, a laborer within the construction industry, did everything he could so we would feel privileged. Instead of hiring external contractors, he would learn new skills and trades that would save him money. And I never knew how physically demanding these roles were as a child. Fortunately, my uncle, my dad's business partner, was strict with their work-life balance and refuted dad's suggestion to work every day of the week. They compromised and allowed themselves one day off each week. To this day, I'm thankful for this decision because the memories of my childhood are filled with family gatherings, picnics in the parks, weekends at the beach, and they shape my version of what happiness is. Even to this day, those memories bring me joy when I think back to my childhood. My mum, whose ambitions were to become a nurse, was not given the chance to further her education after high school, and she struggled to find a job. This frustration period lasted for 9 months until she finally landed a role in an accountancy firm, which she absolutely loved. She adored her co-workers and the autonomy the role offered her. However, once she and my father married, everything changed for her. And it's not unusual for Indians to have extended family members living under one roof. As a new wife, she was expected to serve all members in that house. She had no control over the way the household was run, and the new head of the household, her mother-in-law, was the one who made the rules. Mum's responsibilities extended beyond contributing to the household income. My mother was required to take care of the family home and everyone residing in it. She was accountable for cooking every family meal, including providing lunches for the men of the house before they went to work each day. Her duties included cleaning the house from top to bottom before leaving for her job, washing clothes and wiping the floors by hand, as well as tidying the kitchen. I can't help but think she was in her real-life Cinderella story, a labourer that continued long after my brother and I were born. When I was very young, I never considered myself to be from a working class family until I understood what that word meant, of course, because my parents gave me and my brother everything we could possibly need growing up. I did not know back then how fortunate we were to have a television or a digital box. We moved house so that my brother and I could live closer to a better school. My dad was a huge advocate of education, saying on many occasions, "I wish I'd studied more to get ahead of life." And that was how I knew we were working class. The struggles he faced to give us everything we needed was a huge privilege. My parents always did the best they could, which included giving us a personal computer, a truly momentous occasion. And at the time, I thought this must be one of the most expensive things in our house because it was placed in my parents' room. And isn't it funny the things we remember so distinctly when we recall memories of our childhood? Our brain is wired to make memories by using several different parts of our brain. The brain is clever in making associations from incoming information. This is the same when we listen to our favorite song. Nostalgia takes us back to the very moment in time where we formed that memory listening to that song, drawing us back to those emotions we may have felt. And we can often remember that it was what we were doing at that time. When we had our computer, one of the things I will never forget is the sound of dial-up internet. It was within this space that I started writing my own fictional novel. I thoroughly enjoyed reading fictional books as a child, and I continued to crave this other world where I could be anyone else, a world where I could make up stories and imagine myself living in this alternative universe. As I sit here attempting to put my thoughts on paper for this introduction, I knew I never lost that desire to write. However, because I always had seen myself as a below average student, I was unsure if this is something I could do, that it was simply it would remain a hidden dream. This aspiration to write sat in my heart for a very long time until the inspiration to write struck. A close friend and I were discussing our personal stresses over a coffee on a late summer's day in Brackley when she suddenly queried how I managed to process things that were difficult in my life. How can I bottle up what you have and take it with me? She asked. At the time, I was astounded that people would want to know why I am the way I am. But then I started to recall how they would ask how I dealt with situations, tackled negativity, faced challenges, and remained optimistic and positive in my outlook. That was the moment where I experienced the avalanche of questions. Questions upon reflection included, what do you mean? There was something special about me. I sat there, admiring my incredibly talented and smart friend. She was an engineer, someone who had discovered her passion for this field of work early on. She was upbeat, engaging, funny, and loved her job. She was also engaged to be married to her true love. Most importantly, to me, she personified what well-being, success, and happiness were. She radiated all of them from the inside out. And this is where my thoughts gathered further momentum. What is the ultimate goal in life? Is it to be happy? John Lennon's famous quote summarizes how happiness can be set. It can set its own intention in life. When I went to school, they asked me what I wanted to be when I grow up. I wrote down happy. They told me I didn't understand the assignment, and I told them that they didn't understand life. So when looking at my own sense of happiness, I naturally wondered about what happiness looked like for other people in my life. My upbringing made it tricky to separate happiness from job satisfaction. When jobs are scarce, there is less onus on personal satisfaction. When we have an abundance of jobs around us, our personal satisfaction counts far more than its monetary value. When we are self-reflecting within our working roles, we question ourselves regarding our overall levels of satisfaction. We seek gratification in work we do. Therefore, the requirement to seek satisfaction overtakes the material reward. This outstrips the basic reason for working. When we can cover our basic needs, we seek to venture beyond our safety net and take our pursuit towards happiness more extremely. Can differentiating between our jobs and overall satisfaction in life lead to answering the following question? What is it that makes us happy in our lives? The hours we spend each day in a job accumulate and make up significant parts of our lives. Is the pursuit to sustain the levels of happiness you seek within a professional domain, or is it simply a way of going through the motions in order to provide for your family? These answers will differ in respect to where you are regarding your levels of satisfaction in life. My parents had different experiences in this. They knew they needed to provide for their family. One loved their job, and the other found it a necessity for contributing to the household income. The significance lies within the answer to these key questions. What makes me happy? What are the conditions that nurture this level of happiness for us to sustain and thrive? Is it that once everything is synchronized within our lives, we are able to label it as happiness, fulfillment, and or success? What drives our success to make us who we are today? These questions allowed me to write thoughts about how we need to approach and reflect within our own lives. We can assess what our own needs and desires are and take control without life leading us astray. Once I spoke to my friend over coffee, it instinctively occurred to me that I could reflect upon my personal journey, and the result is this book. I have kept a journal as a means of reflection throughout my adult life, particularly as a practitioner coaching strength and conditioning. I discovered writing is an opportunity to assess and contemplate events. Reflecting and journaling became a tool to navigate through my problems and create solutions. Writing also happened to be a key influencer in helping me through personal struggles. This book was written whilst I was still recovering from significant setbacks in my life, some of which occurred while I was still actively working on my mindset. The combination of research and writing allowed me to build a breadth of knowledge into understanding my own emotional pathway, and consequently, directly or otherwise, I knew I was able to nurture the ability to be more sympathetic towards others and heighten my emotional intelligence. Everyone's journey is different. We all experience different levels of distress, discomfort, anguish, and heartache, but this book was created to shine some light on some of my personal encounters. My childhood was an extremely happy one. My brother and I were brought up in a loving, kind, protected home, and I was able to pursue various dreams through the support of my family. And this book allowed me to be vulnerable, to write down some of my experiences that have made me who I am today. This book was written to showcase some of my vulnerabilities in hope that you may also uncover some of yours. My hope is that through this journey, you can discover your best self and create habits of success and happiness along the way. This is a personal journey of self-discovery, and within each chapter, I will provide some hard-hitting questions that may support your pursuit to discover your own happiness in the time to consider sections. These include practical tools and tips to expand your version of success and unleash your potential. On a practical note, I suggest you create a separate notepad or journal to write down your answers. On a more personal note, some of my personal recollections may shock you, but I aim to provide a truly honest account of the various impactful events from my life and hope that you do too. Will not shy away from past events that you may feel like shying away from. You need to be able to look back at previous events, experiences with self-compassion and without judgment in order to answer the questions I ask throughout the book honestly. You may want to bookmark the points where the questions are posed in order to answer them again at a later date to see how your answers have changed. I also encourage you not to become disheartened if you are either disappointed by your current answers or feel you don't have any answer at all. The more practical solutions offered are there to help shift your mindset and serve to assist you with any struggles. The main purpose is to heighten your awareness surrounding any pervading problems or thoughts in your life and come up with an active solution. I now call any new problems an opportunity. There may be some chapters you resonate with, others you may not. Some chapters centers on moments of realization and personal reflection, such as authentically you, conscious eating, and the storm will pass, while others offer more practical tips on changing your mindset. Again, conscious eating, my love affair, and you snooze, you win. The chapters on intention setting and meditation come after detailing breakthroughs periods in my life. Though these episodes in my life were traumatic and stressful, I was able to overcome them because of the work I did beyond the more practical aspects of sleep, exercise, and food, the standard triad in any health practitioner would recommend. I would not advise trying to change too much at once. For me, once I tackled the basics, I found that these other forms of self-development were a natural progression. Even though there was no set plan for everyone, taking these steps towards self-development will allow you to develop your own synergy, which will form a personal holistic approach. This will allow you to set your own blueprint in which you will incorporate wellness into your life. Throughout this book, I've woven in my light-hearted but insightful stories and a bit to support you and your own experiences. So whatever you are going through is totally fine, and you will always have a choice to change things that happen to you. And I believe that often things are happening for you, and it is about empowering yourself to realize it. It will always be within your superpower to choose exactly what is right for you. You will see how I had to retrain myself to become positive. It was hard work initially, but this mindset has become more natural. I believe the same can happen to you. I'm thankful and have enjoyed each moment of this journey, from putting my thoughts on paper to researching materials for supporting evidence, and even the hours of editing. Thank you for giving this a chance, for picking up this book, for taking time to read, or for the podcast, listening, taking time for you and allowing me to express my inner thoughts and experiences. And I always end, or I try to end, with a quote that life is a journey, not to see the world, but to find yourself, your place in the world, and rediscover your own happiness. It is not a destination to be reached, but a journey to be enjoyed. Maybe your journey isn't so much about becoming anything. Maybe it's unbecoming everything that isn't really you, so you can be who you were meant to be in the first place.
Yeah. Beautifully read.
Thank you. I stumbled a little bit, but we got there in
No,
the
it
end.
wasn't obvious. Yeah, look, it wasn't obvious. Can I ask some questions?
Of course you can.
Okay, so more about clarity around some things. When your mum got married, this was in the UK, right?
Yeah,
So that
yeah.
all was in the UK, because it sounds very traditional, and
Oh
I
no, it
didn't know
definitely
whether.
was. It
Oh,
was definitely traditional. Yeah.
yeah, but it all still happened and happens in the UK.
It really depends. I feel like people, it's like with the Western world, there is a lot of money in weddings now, isn't there? And it doesn't matter what
Yes.
religion you are, it just depends upon what your family want, how much is that
Hmm.
going to cost, but also what the individual, what the couples want. And I feel like me and my brother have definitely veered away from the traditional side of things, but my
Hmm.
parents was definitely it was a big deal. But even then, I think I remember my mum telling, maybe this is in a future book, but I remember my mum telling me how she had to wash up on her engagement party because it was just something that she had to do. And
Mm.
I'm just like,
Yeah,
what? See, it's a real life
I know.
Cinderella story. Started from
Yeah, real life Cinderella. Okay, so that was in Wales. Yeah.
there.
And it's an Indian heritage, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right. When did your mum and dad move away from living with the family and her doing all that hard labor?
Oh, I think, well, my grandparents were dipping in and out of India and the UK. So they would live in India for a few months and then they would come back and kind of like stay with the family for quite a while. So I don't even think that they properly moved out until maybe when I was 18. Like we had our own
Oh,
individual
right.
houses, but even
Yes.
then we had our grandparents stay with us. And I remember even at 18, I'm just like, this is a bit of a hassle. But then I was able to speak, I was able to actually voice my opinion. But there are
Yeah.
a few stories in the next few books actually that actually delve deeper into the impact it's had on my own purpose and my own wellness and healing
Absolutely. Yeah. I think
as an
your mum
adult.
would not have wanted that for you.
Say that
And
again.
and your mum would not have wanted that for you.
I don't know. I haven't
Oh, you
asked.
don't know.
I haven't
Yeah,
asked. But the thing
okay.
is, like, it is traditional to have extended family members within one household. I just felt like my
For
mum
sure.
was really given that.
Absolutely.
She
In
wasn't
lots of
really given that
cultures.
opportunity because, like, she had my grandparents, then she had her brothers-in-law. So really, because they were
Yes.
married, you all have to live under
Right.
that one roof. So she basically, it's almost like for a lot of girls, they have to adjust their lives and the
Yes.
men don't really change. And I find it really shocking that a lot of Indian women have said the same thing of like, we have to change and change our whole environment, where we're living, where we're eating, what we're doing. But the men still stay in their childhood home potentially, right? In their
Yeah.
bedroom, and nothing's really changed for them except now they have a wife. And possibly battles between their parents and the wife, because it's like, if they don't get on, isn't that a bit of a conflict for
Got
them?
you. So when the brothers got married, did their wives come and live in the house as well?
I don't know. I feel like
Okay.
it was like too many, and then they ended up
Yes.
like getting, I think it was, yeah, it was my uncles who actually got a house together. So then they were living in that house, and then my grandparents again would go visit for extended periods of time and stay with them, and then they'd stay with us. And it was almost like it was just a, it was like a house hopping for them. It's like,
Yep.
what can we do? How can we be taken care of? And my sons and my daughter-in-laws need to take care of us, basically.
Yeah. Look, I know it happens in a lot of cultures. I don't think it happens in a traditional Australian type culture, but then Australia is very multicultural. So I
Yes.
have a friend who's Australian, married to a Greek girl. Her dad lives with them
Yeah.
and lives off them. Like he doesn't work. They
Yeah.
work to support him and his hobbies and his habits and everything about him. So
Yeah.
I know that's a Greek culture thing as well. But
Mm.
then, like I said, Australia is very multicultural.
But I find that
And
interesting, right? That they, yeah, it's that tradition of you need to look after us and we're your responsibility now. And it's, I just find it
and it's the
surprising.
daughter. It's the daughter, not the son or the daughter-in-law as
Well, it'll
well.
be the daughter-in-law, but also the son. The son will still take
The
the brunt of the
son,
responsibility, right? Because, well, they're
really.
now a unit.
Okay.
But it will usually be the daughter who's doing the domestic duties.
Yeah.
But it'll be
Interesting.
interesting to like hear what the I again, everything's all like this diverse mixture of cultures now. There's different ideas. The way, like, obviously, me and my brother have been brought up in the UK, born in the UK.
Mm,
We are obviously first generation born here. So it's going to be different
hmm
for us. And even my dad said, like, it'll be different again for your kids because it's like
hmm
we're ever evolving in our generation, in our own culture. And like, my brother's not traditional at all. He's not
No.
religious. He's atheist. And so this is the thing. It's like I'm more spiritual than religious, and yeah, things just change, don't they? They're constantly evolving.
Oh, absolutely. So with outside influences and the internet, right? So
Mhm.
what your mum experienced, she probably thought everyone in the world experienced the same thing.
Yeah.
She wouldn't
Yeah.
have thought any different, right? But
Yeah.
now it becomes quite clear that there are class systems within a country, within a community, uh, but then, so many different versions of being married around the world.
Agree. And I feel like that's a blessing in disguise because we're able
Hmm
to, it's almost like it's a bit of like a double blind situation, isn't it? It's a blessing in disguise because you know there's other options, but then on the flip side, you're
Mm,
just thinking, well, which option is mine? But you need to
yeah,
navigate your own. And that's what I think that happiness within
yeah,
definitely embodies. It's you, nobody gets to class what your vision of happiness is. You find your own. And this is how you can use the toolkit that I present in the chapters to cultivate. And it's almost like you've got a big block of rock, of stone, and you're chipping away what that happiness is entailing. That is nothing outside of you. This is your rock. This is part of you. How can you chip away what's that underlying magic
beautiful.
of
Yeah,
happiness?
yeah. So just to make that clear, actually, I know this, but just to make it clear for everyone else, this is not how a book necessarily of how people can find the same happiness that you have,
Hmm.
or what you're not telling anyone what happiness means. You're giving them the toolkit to find their own happiness, whatever that means. And I have heard and read, I've heard all of it, I would say. I've read most of it, and I would agree that the toolkit you supply can provide choices,
Hmm.
and even just knowing you have a choice um,
Agree.
provides happiness of sorts. Yeah,
It does.
it's
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And it'll
When you
be
think you have
interesting to
no
get
choice,
people
that's scary.
say that again.
When you don't think you have a choice, that's scary.
Yeah, or wanting to think that you have to be in control of everything. And sometimes, like,
Oh,
even
yeah.
that, it's like wanting to be in control and going, well, I have to have this choice or otherwise it's nothing. And it's like, well, wait a second. can you lessen the control, or can you loosen that grip on certain things that need to be a certain way? Because again, there could be something better out there for you, right? And that's why I was saying it's not just about the monetary value, the physical, tangible things that make you happy, but that is included in the book as well. So it's not just about,
Yes.
oh, how can you find that inner happiness? I know it's called happiness within, but you can find happiness in external things. But what was the degree of happiness that you can get from that? And how much is that sustainable?
Yes. Yeah. No, it's a great book. So next week you're going to read, or it can be more times a week. How many times are you going to do it?
I think
Depends how
I'm
much
going to
time
do
you've
at
got.
least a few chapters, but please,
I,
everyone who are listening, do engage with us. Let me know. Do you want to have
mhm,
more story time at the end of this season? And I'll go through the chapters. I'll do chapter 1 next podcast, and then chapter 2 the
mhm.
following. And it'll be our own little podcast of story time. But yes, please do let us know. But did you have any other health motivational tips of the day as we round up our podcast, Kelly, or is it just by Tulsi's book?
Yeah, there's a book I know called Happiness Within. It gives you the tools for health and happiness, and I think you should all log in uh, and buy it. Listen to story time as well, but please support Tulse, who has put her heart and soul. And I wrote this in my review of the book. This is Tulsi's heart song, and
Oh,
it makes me quite not teary, but emotional. It fills my emotional cup up to
wow.
read. Yeah. But hearing you read your words makes me even more emotional.
Oh, and I didn't even read
Mm.
it like in the best way, but maybe I'll do it again. Yeah, no, that was thank you for giving me the opportunity to read that out for our podcast. So I'm just
Well, I
overjoyed.
think you should do it for all of yeah, you might have to get quick sticks on the next book because I want you to do it for all of the UK summer, the rest of the UK summer. How much longer have you got? Another month?
I think so, yeah,
Five
next
weeks?
month. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, 6 weeks of summer so people can listen to Happiness Within, and you'll know the people that are listening to it because they'll just have a smile on their face.
Oh, okay. Well, no pressure. Kelly's already set precedent now. I'm going to be sending out our
Yep,
short stories and saying
yep.
story time on our podcast for the next few episodes as we round up season 4. But thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Kelly, for being
Thank you.
amazing. If you did find this podcast useful, please let us know in the comments box below. Tell us what was your favorite episode so far and what you think about the book if you bought the book. We would love for you to be a part of our Patreon community, and all of these links can be found in the description box. So don't forget to subscribe if you're seeing us on YouTube, and hit the notification bell so you do not miss out on the alerts for when our podcast airs. I hope you enjoy this new one,
Exactly.
and we'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.
Thank you, Todd. Bye.